It was a bright Monday morning at Silverline Motors, one of the most famous luxury car dealerships in the city. Expensive cars shone under white lights, and salesmen in sharp suits smiled at wealthy customers. But in the corner, quietly cleaning the floor, was a man no one cared to notice, Marcus, the janitor. He wore an old blue uniform, his hands rough from years of work. As he mopped the marble floor, people passed by him as if he were invisible. The smell of polish filled the air, and his reflection shimmered faintly in the floor he worked so hard to keep spotless. Suddenly, a loud voice broke the calm. "Hey, watch where you're going, janitor!" It was Rick, the dealership manager, a tall man with slick hair and a fake smile. Rick's voice was full of arrogance. He pointed at a luxury car, a silver sports model, and shouted, "You almost touched that with your dirty hands. Do you even know what this car costs?" The customers nearby turned to look. Some giggled quietly. Marcus stood straight, holding his mop, and said in a calm voice, "I didn't touch it, sir. I was just cleaning the floor." Rick sneered. "Don't talk back. Just clean and stay in your lane. People like you should be grateful we let you work here." Marcus lowered his eyes but didn't speak again. Yet there was something strange about the way he carried himself, not like a poor man ashamed, but like someone who didn't care what others thought. His calmness made Rick even more irritated. "Clean my office next," Rick barked, "and don't take all day. I don't want you anywhere near the customers." "Yes, sir," Marcus replied softly. As Marcus walked away, Rick turned to his assistant and whispered, "These janitors, always so slow. They'll never amount to anything." But Marcus heard him. He smiled quietly to himself, not angry, just thoughtful. He finished mopping the last section of the showroom, looked at the shiny floor, and said under his breath, "Sometimes people see only what's on the surface." When his shift ended, Marcus left through the back door. Outside, a black SUV waited for him. The driver stepped out quickly and opened the door. "Good evening, sir," the driver said respectfully. The word "sir" sounded out of place. "Why? Would a driver call a janitor, sir?" Marcus nodded, got inside, and the car drove away smoothly. Inside the car, Marcus took off his old cap and gloves. His tired eyes softened as he looked out the window at the glowing city lights. On the seat beside him was a folder marked Silverline Motors acquisition documents. He opened it and smiled faintly. His company had just purchased the entire Silverline dealership chain. Tomorrow, he would be introduced publicly as the new owner. But tonight, he wanted to know how the employees treated people who had no power, because that showed their true nature. As the SUV stopped in front of a tall glass building, Marcus whispered, "Tomorrow, they'll see who really owns this place." Meanwhile, back at the dealership, Rick locked the showroom doors, still grumbling about lazy janitors. Ray had no idea that the man he insulted today would soon hold his future in his hands. The next morning was going to change everything for Marcus, for Rick, and for the entire dealership. The big night finally arrived. The dealership sparkled brighter than ever. Shiny cars lined the glass showroom, and golden lights reflected off their hoods like stars on water. Tables were filled with drinks, soft music played in the background, and every employee tried their best to look confident. Marcus was there too, still wearing his old blue uniform, quietly arranging chairs and cleaning the last few spots. No one paid attention to him except when they needed something. Rick, the manager, moved around the room with fake confidence. His black suit gleamed and his smile looked polished, but his eyes showed worry. He wanted to impress the new owner, whoever he was. Rick had no idea that the man mopping the floor was the one he should have been impressing all along. Marcus. Rick shouted from across the room, "Hurry up with that. Don't ruin my event by being slow." "Yes, sir," Marcus replied calmly. Continuing his work, guests started arriving, wealthy investors, business partners, and car collectors. The atmosphere was full of laughter, handshakes, and fake compliments. Rick walked from one group to another, showing off the cars. "These models are our pride," he said proudly. "I personally make sure everything here runs perfectly." Marcus stayed quiet, watching from the side as he polished the edge of a glass table. But deep inside, he was observing everything, how employees treated guests, how Rick bragged about success that wasn't his, and how the same arrogance he saw every day was now painted in gold. A few minutes later, A tall man with silver hair walked in. Mr. Collins, one of the main investors from the corporate office. Everyone rushed to greet him. Rick almost tripped running to the door. Mr. Collins? What an honor, he said, shaking his hand. Mr. Collins smiled politely and looked around the room. His eyes soon landed on Marcus, who was standing in the corner. His face lit up with recognition. Marcus, Mr. Collins said warmly, walking toward him. Everyone turned their heads. Rick blinked in confusion. Wait, you know the janitor? He asked awkwardly. Mr. Collins laughed. Janitor? Oh no, my friend. Marcus and I go way back. He's one of the most brilliant businessmen I've ever met. The whole room went silent. A few people exchanged confused looks. Rick forced a laugh. Ah, yes. Of course, sir. You must be joking. This man is just our cleaner. Mr. Collins looked at Rick with surprise. Cleaner? Interesting. He glanced at Marcus, who simply smiled and said, It's okay, Mr. Collins. I'm just helping out tonight. Rick laughed again, trying to hide his discomfort. Yes, well, everyone must do their part, right? Marcus nodded calmly. Indeed. Everyone has their part to play. Words hung in the air like quiet thunder as the evening went on. Marcus continued working silently while Rick entertained guests. But whispers began spreading. People wondered why a senior investor respected the janitor so much. Some employees even started treating Marcus differently, greeting him politely now. Rick, feeling embarrassed, decided to show his control. He called Marcus over in front of everyone. Hey, you missed a spot here? He barked, pointing to the floor. Do your job properly. I can't have the guests walking on dirt. Everyone froze. Mr. Collins frowned, but Marcus only smiled. Of course, sir, he said softly. He took his mop and began cleaning, ignoring the laughter around him. Yet his calmness made people uncomfortable. It was as if he knew something they didn't, something powerful. As Marcus worked quietly, he heard Rick bragging to the investors again. I've built this place from the ground up. I run everything here myself. Mr. Collins raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. Marcus looked up slightly and whispered, Tomorrow, we'll see who really runs this place. The clock ticked closer to midnight. The investors were impressed with the event. Rick smiled proudly, thinking the night was a success. But little did he know, the real show hadn't even begun. Because by morning, his world would fall apart, and the janitor, he mocked, would take the stage as his new boss. The next morning came with a sharp chill in the air. The dealership glimmered in the early sunlight after last night's party. Everyone arrived earlier than usual. The new owner was supposed to visit today. The staff whispered to each other with nervous excitement. Rick wore his best suit again, the same fake smile glued to his face. He barked orders at everyone, trying to show control. Polish the cars. Straighten the chairs. Make sure the logo is clean enough to eat off of. He shouted. Marcus was already there, quietly wiping the glass doors. His movements were slow and calm, almost too calm for a busy morning. Rick noticed him and frowned. You again. I thought I told you to stay out of sight when the new owner comes. I don't want you embarrassing us, Marcus replied softly. Don't worry, sir. I'll make sure everything is spotless before he arrives. Rick rolled his eyes. Just make it quick and disappear. As time passed, the staff lined up near the entrance, waiting for the new owner's arrival. The showroom was shining, the cars sparkling like diamonds under bright lights. Rick straightened his tie nervously, wiping sweat from his forehead. Suddenly, a sleek black SUV pulled up outside. Everyone froze. Rick rushed to the door, whispering, He's here. The driver stepped out, walked around the car, and opened the back door. Out stepped a tall man in a perfectly fitted black suit. The employees couldn't see his face clearly at first, but there was something familiar about his walk. Calm. Confident, powerful, Rick hurried forward with a wide smile. Welcome, sir. I'm Rick, the manager here. It's an honor to finally meet you. The man lifted his face slightly, and every voice in the room went silent. It was Marcus. Rick's smile froze. His mouth fell open. The janitor he had insulted, mocked, and ordered around was standing there now, dressed like a true businessman, looking like a completely different person, Marcus stepped inside slowly, his black shoes clicking softly on the polished floor. He looked around with calm eyes, studying the shocked faces around him. "Good morning, everyone," he said politely. "I see the dealership looks even better than last night." Rick stammered. "Wait. I don't understand. What is this?" "You're the janitor, aren't you?" Marcus smiled faintly. "Was I?" Mr. Collins entered behind him, grinning proudly. "Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce Mr. Marcus Reed, the new owner of Silverline Motors." Gasps filled the air. The staff looked at each other, speechless. Rick's face turned white. Marcus walked slowly around the showroom, his eyes thoughtful. "I've been visiting all my dealerships before officially taking charge," he said calmly. "But I didn't want to walk in as a rich man. I wanted to see how people treat those they think are beneath them." Rick swallowed hard, his legs trembling. "Sir, I didn't mean anything," I said. "I didn't know." Marcus raised his hand gently, stopping him. "No need for excuses, Rick. You showed me who you are. That's all I needed to see." Everyone was silent. Even the sound of the air conditioner seemed too loud now. Marcus turned to the rest of the employees. "But I also saw kindness," he said, glancing at Tom, the young salesman. "I saw people who treat others with respect, no matter their job title." Tom looked stunned. Rick looked terrified. Marcus smiled slightly. "Today, there will be changes. Not because I'm angry, but because this place deserves better leadership." Rick tried to speak, but no words came out. Marcus looked at him for one last moment and said softly, "You told me once to stay out of sight. Maybe today, it's your turn." Rick froze. Realizing what was about to happen, the staff watched in complete silence as the janitor turned donor took his place behind the manager's desk. The power had shifted, and the truth had finally come out. The room was still in shock. No one moved. No one spoke. The same people who had laughed at Marcus only yesterday now stood frozen, not sure how to even breathe. Marcus sat behind the manager's desk, the very one where Rick had once barked orders and thrown insults. But unlike Rick, Marcus didn't look angry or proud. He looked calm, peaceful. Rick stood in front of him, face pale, his hands shaking slightly. "Sir, I'm so sorry," he stammered. "I swear I didn't mean anything," I said. "I was just doing my job." Marcus leaned back slowly, his eyes calm but piercing. "Your job," he repeated softly. "Yes, I saw how you did your job. You managed the cars, the papers, and the numbers perfectly. But you failed the people." Rick's throat went dry. He tried to speak, but Marcus continued. "I came here as a janitor to see what kind of people worked for me," Marcus said. "I didn't care how well you could sell cars. I cared about how you treated others, the ones with no power, no title, no voice." Tom, the young salesman, watched quietly from the corner. He remembered how Marcus had always spoken kindly, even while being insulted. Marcus stood up and walked slowly around the office, his voice calm but strong. "Rick, do you remember yesterday? When you told me to stay out of sight so I wouldn't embarrass you?" Rick lowered his head. "Yes, sir," he said weakly. Marcus stopped walking and looked straight into his eyes. "You see, respect isn't something you show only to powerful people. True respect is shown when no one is watching, when the person standing in front of you can't do anything for you." Rick felt sweat roll down his neck. "Please, sir, give me another chance. I'll change, I promise." Marcus sighed quietly. "I'm not angry, Rick, but this company deserves better leadership, and you need to learn what humility feels like." He turned toward the staff. "Tom," Marcus said firmly, "you've shown kindness and honesty even when it wasn't easy. From today, you are promoted to assistant manager." The employees clapped softly. Tom's eyes widened. "Sir, I don't know what to say." Marcus smiled. "Just keep being the man you already are." Rick watched the scene, his mouth trembling. His whole world was collapsing right before him. "Sir, please," Rick begged again, stepping forward. "Don't defy me. I've given years to this place." Marcus looked at him thoughtfully. You gave years to the building, not the people inside it. That's the problem. The room went silent again. Marcus picked up a file from the desk, Rick's employment file, and closed it softly. "You'll receive your final paycheck today," he said quietly. "I hope you use this time to reflect on who you've become." Rick's lips parted, but no words came out. His pride was gone, replaced by shame. He looked around the room. The same employees who once feared him now couldn't even meet his eyes. He lowered his head. "I understand, sir," he whispered. "Thank you for teaching me." Marcus nodded slightly. "We all make mistakes, Rick. What matters is what we learn from them." Rick turned slowly and walked out of the office, carrying only a small box with his nameplate and a few papers. The sound of his footsteps echoed through the silent showroom as he reached the door. Marcus called out gently, "Rick." Rick turned. His eyes heavy, Marcus said softly, "Remember the janitor you looked down on today might be the one signing your paycheck tomorrow?" Rick gave a small, broken nod and left. The employees stood still for a long moment. Then Marcus looked around and smiled. "Let's start fresh," he said warmly. "No more fear. No more arrogance. From now on, everyone here will be treated with respect." The staff cheered quietly, their faces filled with hope. Tom stepped forward, shaking Marcus's hand, and for the first time in years, Silverline Motors felt like a real family, not just a business. The next morning, sunlight poured through the large glass windows of Silverline Motors. For the first time in years, the dealership felt alive. The air wasn't heavy with fear or arrogance anymore. Instead, there was quiet excitement, a new energy that made everyone stand taller and smile a little brighter. Marcus arrived early, as always, but this time he wasn't carrying a mop or bucket. He wore a clean gray suit, elegant but simple. As he walked through the showroom, every employee greeted him warmly, not because they feared him, but because they respected him. "Good morning, Mr. Reed," said the receptionist, smiling genuinely. "Good morning," Marcus replied, with a kind nod. "How's everything today?" "Better than ever," she said softly. "It feels different." Marcus smiled. "That's what we're aiming for." He walked toward Tom, who was now wearing a new badge that read Assistant Manager. Tom looked both nervous and proud. "Morning, Tom," Marcus said. "How's your first day going?" Tom chuckled. "Honestly, sir, it still feels unreal. Yesterday, I was scared of losing my job. Today, I'm standing beside the owner." Marcus placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "You earned this, Tom. You treated people right, even when it cost you. That's leadership." The staff gathered around as Marcus called for a short meeting. Everyone stopped what they were doing and stood near the front desk. He looked around, seeing faces both familiar and new. "I want to tell you something," Marcus began calmly. "A company is not made of buildings or cars. It's made of people, people who come here every day, give their time, their effort, and their dreams." Heads nodded. Even the shy employees looked up, listening closely. "I've worked in many places," Marcus continued, "and I've seen how power can make good people cruel. But here, we'll be different. Here, everyone will be treated with dignity, from the salesperson to the janitor." A quiet cheer spread across the group. Some clapped softly. Others just smiled, moved by his words. Marcus paused, his voice softer now. "Yesterday we lost someone. Rick was a man with talent, but he let pride destroy his heart. Let his story be a reminder for all of us. Never let success make you forget kindness." Everyone nodded respectfully. Even those who had once followed Rick's arrogance now understood what Marcus meant. After the meeting, Marcus walked to his new office, the same one that once belonged to Rick. He sat behind the desk and looked out at the busy floor. The reflection of the cars shimmered in the sunlight, and for a moment, he thought of the day he first came here as a janitor. Back then, nobody saw him for who he truly was. But that experience had shown him something powerful, the truth about people, and the kind of leader he wanted to be. He picked up a small object from the desk drawer, an old cleaning cloth he had kept as a memory. He smiled faintly. "Never forget where you came from," he whispered to himself. Later that day, Rick returned quietly to drop off his final papers. Marcus saw him near the entrance and walked over. Rick looked embarrassed. "I didn't expect you to talk to me again, sir." "Everyone deserves a second chance, Rick. Use yours wisely." Rick nodded, his eyes filled with regret. "Thank you for being a better man than I was." For the first time, there was real respect between them. As Rick walked out, Marcus turned to the window again. The city lights were starting to glow outside, and the dealership's sign shone proudly brighter than ever. He whispered softly, "This isn't just a business anymore. It's a lesson." Marcus smiled, watching him for a moment before getting back to work, because he knew true greatness isn't in power or money. It's in how you treat the people around you. Moral: never judge someone by their job or uniform. The person you look down on today might be the one teaching you what real respect means tomorrow.